Some of us who had Bill as our lawyers in the past, Bill Quigley, are fond of recalling a time when the bailiff came out of the court in Fort Benning, Georgia, or near Fort Benning, and he was kind of scratching his head, and he said, "I just don't get it. Bill, half your clients go to jail, they all get saddled with big, huge fines, you lose just about every case, you walk out and they're all clapping and standing up." One of the most beloved lawyers in the country, I feel sure, and someone who has educated innumerable people inside the courts and beyond, encouraging us all to close the gap between law and justice and to really believe in the golden rule. And Bill lives it. He, in a sense, is the champion of this, and yet has done so with incredible humility and grace. So I'm so happy to welcome Bill Quigley.
So my name is Bill Quigley, and I teach at Loyola Law School in New Orleans. And I am going to give you a brief overview of the illegality of killings by drones, drone assassination. And I just want to tell you, at the very end, I have my email address, and anybody who'd like it, you're welcome to have a copy of this to show to anybody to help explain what's going on. It's a little simple, but I think it's very direct. So with that, and Tamara's helping in the back. I don't have a clicker or anything like that, so I'm going to raise my hand, and when I do that, she's going to go to the next. So that's what you know what I'm doing. Okay, go ahead. So what are drones? Drones are unmanned, unpersoned aircraft that have the ability to surveil, but also the ability to carry very high-powered weapons. And this is a picture of a sort of a medium-sized drone, and gives you a little bit of the idea of what they're capable of. These are remote-controlled devices that can stay aloft for a very long time. They don't weigh very much compared to regular things, so they can stay up there. They have cameras built into the front of the system there, so that they can look at the ground. They can, and people in local Air Force bases and the like can manipulate them the way our kids or us do with the joysticks and that stuff for computer games. So these are computer games with lethal consequences. Okay, please. Just trying. She's there. She tries. We don't have the same joysticks, I guess. Okay, so some of the consequences. These are some of the consequences. Start to get a picture. These are not like flying rifles. They're not like flying revolvers. They're really like the most lethal weapons that you can imagine. Go ahead, please. Next one. So drones are used by the United States to assassinate people. The government and the Air Force and the CIA and the contractors who do this, they don't talk about it like assassinations, but that's in fact what is done. Next one, please. So a little overview of how many people we're talking about. In Pakistan, almost 300 strikes, killing 1,800 people, at least 300 to 400 non-combatants. The United States says we don't think that we've ever killed a civilian. Everybody is a Taliban, or if they're not a Taliban, then they are somebody bad. You'll see that if you start to watch these stories, sometimes they're Taliban, other times they're terrorists, sometimes they're drug runners, other times they're just provocateurs. People, not provocateurs, they're people who are inciting problems in other countries. Pakistan, Ramsey Clark just got back from there. Colonel Wright is getting ready to lead another group there. Some of you have been here already. This is a terrible, terrible thing. Next, please. So Yemen. Part of the discussion in the United States is this is war. And this is these are instruments of war that we're engaged in. But if you look up there, we're not at war with Pakistan, right? There's no declared war against Pakistan. Yemen, we're not at war in Yemen, but yet Just this year, 34 strikes in that country. Next, please. Somalia, we're doing drone strikes in Somalia as well. So this is an idea of the command center here in the United States at a number of Air Force bases and private facilities, some in New York, some in Nevada, some very close to here, and other places where people are sitting in these overstuffed chairs. They have multiple monitors that they're watching. They have communications gear and they are manipulating and driving and running the drones that are thousands of miles away from seats not too far from here. Computer stuff. So how are they illegal? Go ahead. That's fine. She's trying to speed me up. How are they illegal? Many, many ways. Okay, under U.S. law, please. We're all clear. Premeditated murder is illegal. That is exactly what this is it's premeditated murder. Next, please. It violates a ban on assassinations, and I'm going to explain in just a second. Next, please. And it obviously violates the due process of anybody who is the target of the assassination. When I was at the Center for Constitutional Rights in New York, we represented the family of Anwar al-Awlaki, who is, by all stretch of the imagination, is a very bad guy. He's a U.S. citizen. The United States decided that we are going to fire drones at him in Yemen or wherever we can find him, and we are going to execute him. Could we do that in Kansas City? No, we can't do that in the United States. Could we expect somebody in another country to do it to us and just decide who they don't like? No, we wouldn't allow that either. So the due process in the United States, no matter how bad you are or how bad we think you are, you're entitled to a hearing, a trial, a jury, a prosecutor, a defense lawyer, an appeal, etc., etc. Obviously none of that with this. Go ahead, next, please. Okay, next, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're going backwards.
Yeah.
Okay, well look, I think it's time to go ahead without this. Premeditated murder obviously is a crime, capital crime in a lot of places, but a crime in all 50 states. Next. What is premeditated murder? Willful, deliberate, premeditated taking of life. Exactly the definition here. The drones, they don't do it at random. The people sitting in those chairs are picking out specific people, like the people in row 7. Those 2 people have decided that those 2 people no longer deserve to live. And as a result, all they do is press this thing, and then that happens. Next. Next. Violates military code, federal law, and the rest. Next, please. Next. These are 2 of our favorite people, obviously, but since 1976, it has been, at least on the books, illegal for the United States to assassinate people in other countries. We know the stories of what's happened before then, we know the stories of what happened after then, but at least since 76 it's been illegal. Go ahead, please. So Gerald Ford issued this specific executive order. We're not just, this is not soft and fuzzy things, specific orders of the president that no one shall do political assassination. Next. And that order was even affirmed by President Reagan, who I think these days might be kicked out of the Republican Party for being too soft on various things. Next, please. Violates the Constitution. Next. Is used to kill U.S. citizens. Mr. Alwaki, a nephew of his. Next. Next. We talked about that already. And I already said that. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. This is not to say that killings at any time are not authorized. Obviously, you're able to kill in self-defense, legally to kill in self-defense, able to kill in war in self-defense. But again, it's only as a last resort. It's supposed to protect not just civilians, but it's supposed to protect other people engaged in combat in this country and other countries as well. It's part of our international obligation. Next, please. And the United States has the right to defend itself. So if, in fact, the United States knows that there is someone who is threatening the United States with imminent threat of death or serious injury. It's a specific threat. It's a concrete threat, and this is the last resort, then that is something that is actually allowed. Go ahead, please. But drone killings aren't that. These are people, as you will see, most of the people that the United States kills, we do not even know their names. We think that they are affiliates or members of some groups that we think, among other things, maybe have real animus against the United States. And therefore they're being tracked, they're followed, etc., and then they are executed. Even, this was Sunday, so this would be last week. As you know, there was a big drone strike where a number of children were killed. Go ahead, next, please. Go ahead. So the United Nations actually allows one nation to engage in force against another nation, but it is only under certain circumstances. And the general thing is that our country, Mexico, doesn't have the right to go to war against us, nor Nicaragua, nor other places, nor do we have the right to go against them. Next, please. All countries have the right to self-defense, please. And self-defense is allowed, again, only until the United Nations Security Council has the opportunity to hear all this, and then they make a decision as a group of whether the use of force by one country against another is authorized. We know that even these processes are not perfect, but we're ignoring these. Go ahead, please. And again, use of force is necessary in defense and is defensive only. Next, please. And also that the use of force is proportionate to the threat. These are the rules of war that the United Nations Charter, the U.S. Congress, these have been the rules of war for hundreds of years internationally. Next, please. So if a country is in an authorized conflict, armed conflict, it can use lethal force to protect itself, but that force has to be proportionate. So we're not talking about Iraq. We have our own problems with Iraq, and most of us in this room would have some serious problems with that. Legally, the United States is in a declared war in Iraq, was for a certain amount of time. Afghanistan, we're leaving, but that was at least declared. We may think it's wrong, we may think it's inappropriate, we may think that it shouldn't have happened, but there have been at least steps taken on that. Pakistan, no. Somalia, no. Yemen, no. The other places that's being done, not at all. We haven't even tried that. Go ahead, please. So, just sums up what I said. You know, we can argue, it can be argued that what we're doing in Afghanistan is legal. I happen to want to argue the other side, but there are arguments that we know about. But you can see that, again, we're not talking about even the drone strikes, particularly in Afghanistan. But when we talk about those, that they are authorized, again, is it proportionate, is it targeted, is it last and necessary for defense, or is it an offensive weapon? Offensive weapons of killing people and that are not allowed under the work that we're talking about, the laws that we're talking about. Next, please. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. So, you know, we're not supposed to be killing anybody there under any circumstance with troops, drones, and the like. Next, please. And just to sum up, state killing is authorized under certain circumstances. Next, please. But the use of drones for targeted killings outside of armed conflict zones is never likely to be legal. And that's what we're talking about, even of soldiers, even of people who are actually militants, much less the large proportion of civilians that are killed in these things. As historically, civilian deaths are thought of as collateral damage, but the United States doesn't. We don't even call them collateral damage anymore. You know what we call civilians that are killed in this thing? We call them terrorists. We do not acknowledge that there are any civilians in any of the places that we do this. Next, please. The United States admitted to the Wall Street Journal, again, not a liberal bastion of anything, that they don't know the names. And here are pictures of a couple of little children who were recently killed in drone strikes. And our friend Judy has the pictures of those people on her t-shirt. Right? Next, please. What the United States has been using for some time is this idea of anticipatory self-defense, which is really offense, right? But anticipatory self-defense is that if we know that someday, if you had the chance, you might do something to us, so therefore, in self-defense, we're going to do something to you right now. That is something that made sense to Mr. Cheney, Mr. Bush, a lot of the lawyers, and other people that were involved in this, but it doesn't really make sense. And a very important part, the pictures on that thing are very important. This is not a Republican problem, okay? This is done under President Bush, but the numbers and the frequency have been increased under the Democratic president that we have now. Next, please. So the idea, what is anticipatory self-defense? It's the same thing we're talking about the incident in Florida. I think I see somebody who I think in my mind might possibly be doing something bad, so therefore I'm going to take action. We don't allow that for individuals, we don't allow it for communities, and we don't allow that under the law for countries. Next, please. The top line there, there's a terrible pattern that's developing out of what the United States is doing. They will figure out somebody that they think are bad guys, they will fire a drone, blow them up, wait a couple of minutes for people to come in to try to assist or to pick up or to try to do that, and then fire again. With the justification being, well, obviously whoever goes to help terrorists are terrorists themselves. But there are other people that go to help people that have been bombed, right? There's family members, there's community members, there's religious people, there's health care, and the like. But we do this, and again, we have never, officially never, hurt a civilian. Next, please. So this is, it's not really easy to see. These are drone strikes in Pakistan. And I want to tell you why I put it up there. If you look, it's hard to see the little model there, but on the right you see the orange dots. Those dots, orange dots, are the drone strikes in Pakistan during the Bush administration. Okay. And the blue ones are the drone strikes in Pakistan during the Obama administration. Now, this is something that the people of Pakistan are very aware of. They know exactly what we're talking about. In the United States, we don't focus on that much. This is it's a very damning graphic. Next, please. Next, please. So part of you go back to what's the basic thing of law and justice. Part of the thing we learned in kindergarten, I don't take your stuff because I don't want you to take my stuff. I don't poke you because I don't want you poking me. I don't do things. It's the basic golden rule, which is at the basis of every religion, is the basis of every philosophy, is the basis of every community known to ourselves in history. Can you imagine what we would do in this country if Colombia or Russia or Canada or Pakistan or anybody fired a drone into our country to take out somebody who was an enemy of their country? What would we do? Would we think that's appropriate? There was a time a year ago I was giving this talk, and just days before, the United States had fired an incredible number of drones into Pakistan and Yemen. And it was the same time when one of the people from Saudi Arabia was targeted in the United States, in Washington, D.C., by people from another country. And we were outraged that anyone would dare tread on our soil to try and take out an enemy of their country. And the hypocrisy of what we are doing, we would not allow anybody to do this to us. We would not do it to our own citizens in this country. We wouldn't do it to anybody in this country. We wouldn't allow anybody to do it to us, but we are doing it with abandon in other places around the world. Next, please. Next, please. Next, please. Next, please. Next, please. And I think we're getting to the end. Next, please. Okay, so that's my email. If anybody would like a copy of this, and we'll have one here, that the community here will have it. If you can use it in a high school or in a church group or anything like that to help explain some of the things that we're up against, to try to hold our government to the same standards that we would like other governments to hold to. I'm honored to be here. You have a terrific community, and I'm honored that the two individuals took that courageous action to help us, help educate us, and help focus us on a terrible human rights crime that our country is committing in our names. Thank you.